Good evening, everyone, and welcome to BT's Fly Tying Friday. Tonight, the 16th of January, we are delighted to welcome our good friend John Wright from Omaha, and he'll be teaching with some Project Healing Waters concepts involved, and we'll join in just a little bit on some of that. And tonight's tip is going to be a surprise, going to be a demo, going to have some information. Anyway, we're the Beattys from Boise, Idaho, and I'm going to bring my good buddy John Wright in here on a side by side so we can introduce you to him. And John, your cameras are working. This is very good. We had a agonizing afternoon as we were getting things worked out as to whether the equipment was going to work or not work. But anyway, John Wright is a retired Air Force B-52 pilot. After retirement, he worked in the computer industry as a system analyst and then as an associate professor teaching information technology for several local colleges and universities. He finally retired from his last job as an independent consultant in 2012. He started fly fishing in 1963 in Colorado. In 2015, he and Dave Jacobs started the Omaha and Lincoln programs for Project Healing Waters, working with disabled American veterans. John is currently working with a group to start a new Omaha-based nonprofit supporting disabled veterans, first responders, and any seriously injured individuals. Join us tonight in welcoming John to Fly Tying Friday. John, the vice is all yours.
Well, thank you, Al, for those kind words. I'll just before I get into the demo that I'm going to do tonight of one-handed fly tying techniques, I wanted to give you a little background of why I got onto this topic. We started the program, Healing Waters program in Nebraska about 10 years ago, and we used to hold fly tying classes at the VA in both Lincoln and Omaha. And one of the times we were at the Lincoln VA, we had a young man join us, and he was only had one arm, and he asked if he could tie flies with one arm, and that was something I had never even considered. I don't know why I hadn't, but I hadn't. So my response to him was, "Sure, I don't know how to do it right now, but if you'll come back next month, we'll teach you." Unfortunately, he never came back, but we did learn about how to do one-handed fly tying. And that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight a little bit. Um, what I have found with one-handed fly tying is it's more about what can I substitute for my non-tying hand, and how do I do things with that substitute. So I'm going to address a couple of topics tonight. The first one I'm going to address is equipment. How do you do things? How do you do things like putting thread through your bobbin and that sort of thing? So then I'll go into how you prepare your materials, and then we'll do some demonstrations of how you attach the materials to the hook, and then how you tie things on. I'm going to be looking at how you work hackle, how you work dubbing, and then we'll finish it up with how to put chenille on a hook. And those are the three things that I think most flies will need. There is one area I'm still working on, actually two. One is how do you get deer hair or elk hair on a fly? I pretty much run out of altitude, airspeed, and ideas. And the other area that I'm still working on is how do you make a tail out of hackle fibers? So those are two areas that I'm hoping I'm going to throw it out to you all, and maybe you guys can come up with some good ideas because you're all a lot smarter than I am when it comes to this. So anyway, let's get into it. Let me change cameras here. And I apologize. I am on my fourth backup camera here, just a little webcam. I too run from Coast and I love them. I've got three of them and none of them work today. So, and I have no idea why right now. So let's go take a look here at, yeah, that one right there. There we go. What I've got here is this is a baking pan that my wife didn't want anymore, so I took it. And these are just alligator clips that have magnets attached to them. so they stick. So how do I put thread in my bobbin? Okay, here's my bobbin, and you can see it doesn't have any thread in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay it down like that. I'm going to grab one of these alligator clips, and I'm going to clip it right on the throat of the bobbin like that. That is a power supply from a computer that I had laying around. And I needed something that was made out of ferrous metal but was heavy, so I could use it for this. And this is what I came up with. So I put the bobbin on my desktop and then just let that magnet hold it right there like that. So I'm going to have to move my camera down just a little bit. There we go. All right. Now what I need is my handy dandy little bobbin threader. And I'll just put that in here. And now I'll put the thread. Come here. There we go. Okay. Pull the thread up. And right through the loop. Grab it. And now just pull it through. And voila, my bobbin is threaded. Now, before I take it out, the next issue I've got is I need to put a hook in the vise. There's my second hand, right there. Magnet and alligator clips. And I've got several of them on my vertical stand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my hook right here, and I'm going to push it over the edge. You can't see it too well, but I'm hanging over the edge right here. Now, let me see if I can get this out of the way. There we go. Now I'll grab my clip, and I'll come out here, and I'll clip onto that thing. And now I've got it hooked in there. So now what I want to do, I'm going to put that right there like that. And I'm going to take my bobbin off of here for now and bring this over here. Move the hook down so it's about where the jaws are. And now I'm just going to slide that hook into the open jaws. And I'm going to look at it. And I know Al likes to have his up a little bit. So in deference to Al, we'll make the hook point up a little. Yep. And close the jaws. Remove the clip. And now we've got our hook mounted. Okay. So now how do I put the thing, how do I put thread on the hook? Well, I can't do this. I probably could, but it just wouldn't work very well. So I need, and you stop and think about it, when you put thread on your hook, you use the second hand, your left hand in most cases, to hold the thread. So since I'm using this as my hand, I'm going to grab it down here. Put that right there like so. And now I'll come up here. Notice I got nice tight line here, just as if I was holding on to it with my hand. And now I can start tying. You know, the nice thing about doing this is I can put that thread exactly where I want it and it doesn't move. So if I want it 2 eye widths back, I put it right there. If I want it 1 eye width back, I just put it right there. Oops. Come here, you. There we go. There we go. There. All right. So that's how you get the thread on. That's how you tie your jam knot. And you grab your scissors, just come over here and cut it. Now, the nice thing about this is you'll notice that this thread is at a pretty good angle back away from the hook. So when I grab my scissors, I'm not going to worry about cutting the thread on the bobbin. Okay. So that's the first part of it. And believe it or not, that was the hardest part of this for me, was trying to get that thread on the hook when I first started tying these things. Okay, next step. Change cameras again. Okay, I'm going to tie on. This is a nice little dry fly pelt. How do you get the feather out of the pelt? With one hand. Normally what we do is we grab the pelt with one hand, hold it steady, and take it off. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to grab one of these feathers. Let me see. I need something that's a little bit bigger. Yeah, that'll work. There. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm just grabbing the feather, sliding my hand down close to the pelt. Now I'm going to hold the pelt with my little finger, my pinky finger, and the rest of my hand and just pop it off. And there it is. And I think I got two on that one. Nope, just one. Okay, now I've got to prepare this thing. Oh, there we go. Let me get rid of this pelt. I need to prepare it. I got to get rid of all this stuff down here because that's no good. I don't want to tie that stuff in there. So now I need to figure out how am I going to get that all off. Well, I tried a lot of different ways of doing it. I'm going to turn the feather around so that the end I want to use is hanging out. Grab it with my other hand, just like that. And I'm going to bring it back over here. Notice I mounted it on the side now, because what I want to do is I want to pull all this stuff back away from it. Just like that. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful when you're doing this, because otherwise you'll pull it out of the clip here. So let me cut off this piece right here. And now I'm going to cut off right in here. There we go. Turn that like so. And now you can see I've trimmed that down. I'm going to move it over here to this side. Turn it around because I want to tie this end in right here. Bring it over to the hook. Bring it down. Then position it. That looks about right. Actually, I got a little bit too long there. I'm going to cut a little bit more of this off. There we go. And now come up, loose loop, over, and straight up. And then put her back on the top. Right like so. Okay. And there it is. Now I'll grab that with my hackle pliers and just start wrapping like we normally would. That out of the way. Yep. 2, 3, sorry about that. And one more. Come around the back. Up, around the back, and up, and in the front. Couple of wraps. And grab this, and I'm going to put it over here. Hang that right there like so. There. See, when I did that, I moved it. I got all the string and everything out of the way. So now I don't have to worry about cutting this off. Now, when I cut this, it's going to drop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold that with my finger and then just come in here. And there we go. And there's your hackle.
John, you make that look too easy.
Okay, now I'm going to cut off or get rid of my thread. Or not get rid of it, but just tie it off here. Okay. And there you go. And there's your dry fly hackle. Okay. Well, what's next? Well, I got to put some more thread back on here, don't I? And you see, notice I lost my thread, so back to the table, back to the bench. And I found that when I'm tying one-handed, I spend a lot of. Okay, next step, I'm going to put a body on it.
A lot of times when you have tension on your bobbin and you cut the thread or break it, it it kind of reacts by coming out of the bobbin.
You're
I do
right,
that
Jim.
a
I
lot
never
of
thought
times.
about that. You're absolutely right. It springs back and pulls it down through.
Yeah,
Yep.
you take a
Well,
little tension off of it when you cut it, and you might find it helps.
yep. I'll bet you're right. But I've gotten quite proficient at threading the bobbin. Okay. So now I get to start the thread on it again. And down here, grab the thread and pull the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Let me see if I can get that a little better focus. There we go. Okay. And I cut off that thread. All right. So body, I'm going to dub a body. So I'm pulling a thread. Okay. Now you all heard Al and just about everybody else talk about, where is it? There it is. Talk about only using small amounts of dubbing. Well, I'm here to tell you when you're tying one-handed, it's critical that you use small amounts of dubbing. Otherwise, you'll get into a mess. Because think about it, you're not going to hold on to your bobbin. You could, I could do something like this and hold it. And now I got some tension on it. That's one way. Or you can just leave it hang. But what I like to do is, you see this, Jim Chris last night on Sherry's channel talked about not licking his fingers anymore. Okay, well, I don't either. This is just a sponge that I got some water on. Bring my dubbing box over here. Now, you all know superfine dubbing is a lot easier to use than some of the other stuff. So that's what I tend to use a lot of when I'm dubbing. And what I'm going to use tonight is this gray. So wet my fingers a little bit, and now I just want a very small amount. I don't know if you can see that. That's all I want. I'm going to bring it over here. Oh, I forgot something. Darn. Okay. One of the things I did when I started doing this is you'll notice the top of my dubbing or my thread wax and the bottom. Al, I haven't had it fall in the trash bin since I did that. So I put that right there and it sticks. Put it right there and it sticks.
John, I'm writing the idea down as we speak.
I'll tell you what, because I like you, I don't know how many times I knocked it in the trash bag. And I finally said I had all these magnets around here and I'm dealing with them. I said, well, hell, why don't I just put a couple on here? So, okay, just put a little bit of dubbing wax on there, not much. And then because I got it sticking on the bottom, I can just stick it like that and it doesn't go anyplace. And back over to grab my dubbing material. And there it is. Okay. And dub that on. You can see I'm not using a very big dubbing noodle here. Let me raise that up a little bit. Not a very big one. Let me go get a little bit more. Not much. And this also taught me how to become a much better dubber.
Yeah, you got some down below your hand there on the thread.
Oh, I do, don't I? There we go. It taught me how to become a much better dubber because I learned to just use tiny, tiny amounts of dubbing when I do this. And even when I'm tying with two hands now. Okay, that's that. Let me take this out of here. And now I can roll up this thread a little bit. And now it's just, we've all been here. We've all done this before. Get back to the tie-in point and then just start bringing it forward. And there's your dub body. Okay. Now let me go to the back a little bit. Because now what I want to do is I want to put something else on here. I got a little piece of chenille that I want to put on. Two of the things that I use a lot of on my bodies, chenille and dubbing. The other thing, and I think I figured out how to do it, is pheasant tails. I got to try and find a way to grab fibers off of the pheasant tail and put them on. Okay, up and over, loose wrap, and then pull up from the bottom. Okay. And now I can get rid of that. Oh, there, did you see me knock that wax off? Now I can just wrap it back. I'll wrap it forward. And what I'm going to do here to simplify that, get my second hand. There we go. And notice I'm wrapping up tight against the thread.
Do you go around the thread or just up tight against it?
Just up tight against it, Gretchen.
Okay.
Now I'm
okay,
going to
see
go
now.
around the thread one time, pull it up, tighten it down, pull it up. Now one in front, one more in the back. Okay. And now we'll get rid of the waste.
John, is your bobbin heavier than normal bobbin?
Nope, just a normal ordinary bobbin.
Okay, it just seems to hold the material really nicely. Is the reason I asked.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. Okay. Now I normally, of course, would be finished up here because I'd put the body on and then I'd put the hackle on. I just did it reverse. So I'm just going to bring this forward because the last thing I want to do is show you how you tie the one-handed half hitch. I have tied them with the half hitch tool, and it can be done. It's a little bit tricky. I found that just by doing a couple of half hitches, 1, 2, that should be good enough. And then, of course, a little bit of head cement, and you're done. Okay, that's a real quick and dirty. Oops, wrong camera. Yeah, there it is. Oh, come on, camera. Oh, I love these cameras that follow you.
I've got one too, John, and
Yeah.
there you go. You sometimes it's real easy to hide from it.
Yeah, if you don't have it on, it turns itself off. Okay, any
Yeah.
questions on that?
Have you heard of the evergreen hand? You know, that was built specifically for this purpose. I'm surprised you
As a-
didn't talk about
ye-
that.
Yeah, I have, and as a matter of fact, I've got one right over here. Okay, let me show you
John?
something. Yeah,
I just have one. I was really impressed with how proficient you are with this. I've seen a demo of the Evergreen Hand before, and it just seemed so difficult to use. But you made this look so easy, and I was wondering how long you've been working on it to develop your skill.
let me think now. Al, when did we first start going down this road?
Well, we started down this rabbit hole about 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. Yeah. At Lincoln, the first time, probably 8, 9 years ago. But then I just kind of set it aside until Al asked me to come on his show and do a demo. And I am not a fly tire. I'm nowhere near the quality and the caliber of Al and the rest of you here. So I said, what can I do that might interest people? And I thought about this. So, and I used the evergreen hand in that presentation. And Al got to hold or contacted me the next day and said, hey, I've been doing experimenting with this stuff. And he sent me some ideas. And that started me down the path of saying, well, the evergreen hand is a great tool, but they don't make all that many of them. And trying to get a hold of it is not always the easiest thing in the world. So I said, why don't we start looking at ways that I can tie one-handed without resorting to the evergreen hand? And hence the system I have here tonight. And the power supply is just I'll tell you, when I 3 months ago I was using something else, but then I did something to it. I couldn't find it. It was the day I was going to do a demo, and I didn't have anything to hold on until I looked over and I found this little small power supply, and I said, I wonder. And it works like it's a champ. It's nice and heavy and everything. So,
John, this is
yeah.
Bill. The other nice thing is notice how you can move your magnets much lower to get the angle that you don't have on the evergreen hand. Remember how high the evergreen hand. So in reality, that power supply is actually more effective than the evergreen hand because you can also rotate to the side where you can't on the evergreen. Notice you got that 90-degree perpendicular surface. So I think that to me is very intriguing. Plus, it's an old used Dell power supply, guys. You can find them anywhere.
Right.
I mean, that's
it's
what
called
it is.
recycling.
Yeah.
This is the one tool that I've been looking at. This is the tool that comes with the evergreen hand that they use to grab hair bundles with. And it's nothing more than a paper clip that you can open up like so. And then grab the hair and then close it. You can open it and close it with one hand, but then you can slide it up and down to compact it. Now, what I haven't figured out how to do is once you do that, how do you put it in the hair stacker to stack it? And then how do you get it out of the hair stacker? So some of the things that I'm still working on trying to figure out. I think as far as trying to get using the pheasant tail and the fibers, I think something like this might be usable. One of these test clips where I could get in there and grab the fibers, close it, and then put them off and then just cut them off. I've got to experiment with that a little bit.
One of the things over and above the evergreen hand too, John, you have a cookie sheet below you, and the evergreen hand does not facilitate having that cookie sheet down there so that you can have the thread resting at an angle to do a bunch of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned that real early on. Now the vise I've got, mine is the Peak vise, and it has a solid steel base, so I was able to use that. But the problem with that is I'm so darn short that when I use the evergreen hand on the vise on my desktop, it's too tall. So I like to use this clamp on, and I can get it down to where I can tie and it's comfortable. So
sure.
If you use a hair stacker that is shorter than the standards, and you put the hair in by the tips, you can then grab the butt ends and pull them out after you've got it stacked a little bit. Then you can grab with your good hand, the one hand, you can grab by the butts and pull it out of the stacker, and the tips will be aligned. Yeah. Just reverse the process so you don't have to pull out and pull it out by the tips.
Good point. Yeah, Al, I saw you flash that up. We talked about that earlier. Dave, yes.
Yeah, okay.
John, there is a gadget, and it comes all the way, you won't believe this, from Boise, Idaho, called try and get this in focus. There it is. It's called the Stack and Clamp. So
I've got to
it
find it.
pushes the bunch together, and there's actually a clamp inside of it. I think that pulls off. I don't use it, and you end up with the hair in a clamp.
Oh,
Just a minute. Let me
Uh,
spotlight you, Dave. Okay, Dave, there you are.
uh,
And
there's the gadget, and you're able to see. You pull it down. They're the clamps, and with the use of this other gadget on top here, I never use it because it confuses me a little bit.
I'll be damned.
Yeah, and it's got my rubber bands have gone here, but if I look down the middle of it, here we go,
Uh-huh.
here we go, and I push. You see, it's got an aperture in the middle,
Yeah.
and it compresses. Look, there it is there.
Yeah.
So you compress it, and then release the clamp, and in theory, the hair's been stacked and clamped. Now it's called a stack. Try and get this in focus.
stack
It's
and
all out
clamp.
of reversed, of course. Stack and clamp. And,
Stack it.
and
We
if you
write
read
that down.
there, it comes from Boise, Idaho.
It's no
Does it
longer
have a
made.
company
Patent
name, Dave?
pending. It's called a Better Way.
Okay, I've got that written down so that we can look back at it later. John, did you have anything else that you were
One
going to
more real
demonstrate
quick
tonight?
thing, Al, I wanted to show you. One of the other things I do is I work with Casting for Recovery. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a group of people that work with ladies with breast cancer. And there's their logo. You can see it's a pink Trude. And one of the things that I like to do, I guide for them twice a year in the spring and in the fall. So what I like to do is I like to tie these safety pins up for them. I'm going to show you real quick how I do it. Okay, the first thing I do is I get a Dremel tool and I cut off I file down the point. Then my wife, of course, is a jeweler. She does bead jewelry. And he showed me where to get things like this.
Yeah.
And I got them. And what I use them for is I use these pink ones right here. And I glue them with this stuff right here, E6000. I put a little dab of E6000 on where the hook point used to be. And I wind up with the hook on the floor. With something like this.
Okay.
So I've got and this way, they don't, you're not going to hurt anybody with it.
Right.
Then the next thing I do is get the safety pin on. I'm going to show you that real quick. What I'll do is I'm going to take this right here. It's real easy. I'm going to take I use monofilament tying thread like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to tie some thread on there real quick. Safety pin, which is about the same length as the shank of the hook, but I'm going to open it up like so.
Okay.
And I'm going to take it, I'm going to hold it upside down right here. And I'm just going to tie that on. And then back a few times. And then rotate it 90 degrees to the hook shank. Back up. And then a couple of half hitches. Because the next thing I do is going to lock that down. Because what I do now, I can't see it handy. I have it handy. I just put some super glue right across here between this
So it doesn't
and the hook.
rotate.
Yep. And once I got that done, then I'm finished. And you can see what I've got here. Let me take it off of here, put it in the vise. And that's not going anyplace. And now it's just a question of tying a trude, pink trude. I
Okay.
use bucktail for the tail and the wing, and then I use hot pink rabbit zonkers for the dubbing. And I can usually whap out I can get 25 of these things done in about a week.
Okay.
So,
Wonderful. I love that.
I'd like to make some before our show if I can. I don't know
yeah,
if I
I'll
have
send you a
time.
couple of samples, Gretchen. I don't have any right now. I'll tie up some this week and I'll send them to you.
Okay,
All right,
thanks.
wonderful. Anything
Okay,
else
that's
for us,
it for
John?
me, Al.
Okay, John. Well, Jesus, I gotta tell you, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for just an absolutely great mind-numbing
Numbing.
presentation
Yeah,
because
that's right.
my brain started turning as soon as I saw some of the stuff you were doing, and well, I went into brain overload. But
Well, I
one
tell
of the
you,
things
Al,
that I
most of
wanted
this
to dovetail into what you did,
most of
and
this stuff comes because of the conversations that we had over the years.
and what we're going to do tonight is going to dovetail into that. In fact, right now, what I'm going to do is show another option that a one-handed tire or any tire can bring to their tying table that will make things easier. And one of those is the way you set your table up. And I'm going to show you something that I have on mine, and I cannot believe how it dovetails into what you did tonight. Now, think for a moment. You put a cookie sheet under your vise, and that's got a ridge around the edge so that you can lay stuff on that ridge, and it's easy to grab a hold of.
Yep.
Well, I did something like that, and I'm going to show you right now. This is the front of my fly tying area. My vise is right here. And what I have here is something that I installed back when I first started doing Zoom presentations 5 years ago. And this is a wooden ruler. Well, you say, well, what in the heck is a ruler doing here? Well, the thing of it is I've got two lights here. If I put my hands over them, you can see the light going away and coming back. And I've got those there for a specific reason to light the underside of the fly. There was only one problem. When you look at this vise over here, if I pull that out of the way, those lights shine straight into that camera and blinds it. So the first thing I did was to install that strictly to keep the light from shining up over the edge of the table and blinding the camera behind it. But then I found out it's handy to have this here and to be able to measure stuff. And you pull it up here and you want to measure something and you get it right up in there and you can say, oh, okay, that's an inch and that'll be just perfect. You push that down and you go do whatever you're going to do. Well, that sounds good. The other thing I discovered, the same thing you did, is that if you leave things set on the edge of that, they are so much easier to pick up. And I'm going to show you, and that just brings us right into threading the bobbin, which is something that you talked about. And I'll show you just what I'm going to do here. We're going to start by going to the offside, and I've got a bobbin here. And I'm just going to hang that in the jaws of my vise, just like that. And I'm using one hand now. I'm going to close that until I can feel it snug up, but it still moves around, but it'll stay in various positions for me. If I loosen it, it falls back down. Well, I don't want that. I want it fairly snugged up, but I don't want it so tight that it can't be moved. All I want to do is keep it under control. Because the next thing I'm going to show you, moving back over here, one of the things that I found really important for single hand tying, John, is to store your thread like this. And notice this long tag that I got out here?
Mm-hmm.
That's on purpose. Because now we're going to go into the one-handed operation. of stringing up the bobbin or threading the bobbin. And I'm going to start by first picking up my thread. I have to put it into the bobbin. Well, I'm just going to do that right here. And now I can pull it out of the little notch that was right here in the thread. I'll leave that hang down. And then I'm going to pick up one of these guys.
Ah,
And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick this in my mouth and take the clamp off, so that I can stay one-handed and insert it into the bobbin. Pull it up through there, and there it's ready. Now I'll just take my thread and put it through the loop. And that is a pain in the neck, but it's still possible. Put it through the loop, pull it up through the bobbin. Now, what I want to do is we're going to go into the next part of the presentation, and I wanted to talk about this. When I first moved to Sandpoint, Idaho in 1978, not too long after I was there, a year or so. Anyway, the Sandpoint Recreation Department approached me and asked if I would teach some fly tying classes for them. And one of the classes, a veteran showed up who was crippled in one arm and wanted to know if there's some way that he and his wife could tie together to help each other. And I said, well, yeah, there's no reason why that couldn't be. I'd never done it before, never even thought about it. But and by the way, this veteran was a veteran of the Vietnam War, had not been injured in the Vietnam War, but he was a logger and had been injured in the woods and lost the use of one of his arms. So he and his wife were going to tie together. Well, as it turned out, I sat with him for a couple of hours and kind of give him some ideas, and I never saw him again. So nothing ever came of it. Well, fast forward to the early 80s again, and I met three people that were probably most influential in my life, and that is Wayne Llewellyn, and you all have heard about him, Dick Nelson, and Mel Krieger. Mel was about casting, and he helped me with some of my casting. Wayne Llewellyn, I just learned a gob of things from him, but I got to be really good friends with Dr. Dick Nelson. And over the years, we saw each other at shows. We even traveled to some shows in Europe together. And in later years, he suffered a stroke and lost the use of one of his arms. And his wife, Lillian, who had never tied a fly in her life, became his other hand. And they team tied on the demonstration circuit for some time. I thought, wow, this is absolutely incredible, and said nothing more about it. And then in 2018, when the FFI show was here in Boise, Gretchen and I were asked to compete in a team tying event. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a really sped up version of that it's about a minute and a half video, so you can just kind of get an idea of what we did. Then we're going to actually do a team tying tonight with a pattern. But anyway, this is the event starting at Boise, the announcements and the materials and all those kinds of good things. And now we'll get down to the tying, and I pick up the hook and put it in the vise, and Gretchen closes the vise. I pick up the bobbin, she grabs the thread, and boy, I wish I could tie that fast. But anyway, it's a sped up video, but it's giving you an idea. We're cleaning out the fur in the hair. We're tying a stimulator, and it had its challenges, but that's the first and only time that Gretchen and I have team tied. And as you'll see, we went along, we did pretty well. You'll see our fly at the end and of this video, getting some dubbing in place. But you see how we've tied a lot of flies. We do it very much the same together. And there we are, wrapping the hackle. One of us part of the way, part of the rest of the way, trimming the wing, putting on the hackle, wrapping the front. We're just about done. I won't bore you with too much of that, more of this. And we finished off the fly. And there was the finished product, Team Beatty and Team Tippett, the people that we were competing against. And so that was it. Never thought anything more about it. Now, so for the second time in our history, Gretchen and I are going to tie tonight. Never have done it here in front of the camera like this.
And we haven't team tied since that show.
We haven't team tied since that show. So we team tied once in our life. We're going to do it the second time. And that bobbin right there that I just threaded.
Into this.
I sweet talked you there. Never you mind. Well, anyway, we had to flip a coin to see who was going to be the right hand and who was going to be the left hand. And in referring back to that video that I played just a moment ago, one of the things that we had to do, because we have tied so doggone many flies, our other hand just automatically does stuff. We were sitting there side by side, holding hands so that our other hand wouldn't jump up and do what it wasn't supposed to and end up cheating in the rules. So we were holding hands, and it was funny. The people that would walk by and say, "Oh, look at the lovers tying flies." Boy, we were holding each other's spare hand under control. That's what we were really doing. We'll probably do the same thing tonight. But anyway, we're going to move into position, and I'm going to use the across the vise camera to make it work. Probably the best that we can, but we're going to do a demo.
Yeah, I know you guys are actually holding hands because you're lovers. I know that.
You are so right. There's our materials. And in this fly, I want to talk about this fly for just a second, and I may as well do it while we're on the materials. The woolly bugger was developed by some guy, Russell something or another, I forget the name, in the late 60s, early 70s. Prior to that, the woolly was a woolly worm. And we're going to tie a woolly worm tonight because I didn't tie woolly buggers until the late 70s. I didn't even know about the darn thing. And it became a very popular fly, but it took a while for it to catch on and to push its old comrade, if you will, by the wayside, the woolly worm. So we're going to tie a woolly worm tonight. You can see we've got materials here, and Gretchen will be grabbing those materials. You got a red yarn for the tail. We've got chenille for the body, and we've got hackle that goes on the bod. And so back here now, let's see. What I'm going to do is take the bobbin out of there we go. Gretchen grabbed it. Now would you hand that to me? I'll set that down. And I'm laying it across. Pull that out a little bit. Okay, just a sec. Good.
Do you want to go to the camera?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the far camera right now. Now I'm laying this down on my ruler so that it's easier to pick up. And and now what I'm going to do, Gretchen, I'm going to hand you the hook so that you can set it in the vise, and then I'll close the vise. Gretchen's hand here's another one.
Got it.
Oh, okay. And I'll just reach across there and tighten that up.
I just have a weak hand. I can't do his vise.
Okay. Now let's see if that's tight enough. That'll hold good enough. It isn't in there the best that it could be. But now I am going to, you know what? I always tie with my scissors in my hand. I got a funny feeling that might not be a good thing to do tonight. So I'm going to lay those down. Funny thing that I might be sleeping in the doghouse tonight. Now Gretchen's going to grab that end and then allow me to attach this thread about eye widths back from the hook, from the eye. And I'm just going to wrap to the end of the shank, back up, pull that tight, pull it slightly to your side, down slightly, it's up too tall. There we go. All right. And now I'm just going to come back forward. And if you want to hold that up there, I'll just clip it off. All right. And now it's time for her to go over to the materials area, and she's grabbed the chenille. And now she's coming back with the chenille. Or not the chenille, but with the tail material. And she's going to hold that in place there. If you want to hand it to me, oh, you got it. Perfect. Move it forward just a little bit so I can cap a little bit more. A little bit more. Good. There we go. Okay. Pull up and slightly to your side. There we go. It's keeping that right up on top now. Okay, now I'm going to reach back careful and I'm going to trim off for the tail. And I'm just going to fuzz that up. Okay, and Gretchen is going back now and she's picking up the hackle. And you'll bring that up here a little bit higher. And I'm just going to kind of strip that, pull these fibers off of there.
I'm as good as a magnet.
Oh, yeah. Okay, trim that off and let me get towards the back there. Okay, just set it down underneath. Or that's good. Okay, now pull it out slightly so we got some bare stem so that it doesn't, okay, good. All right, now it's time for the chenille. Gretchen's grabbing the chenille. Gretchen's picking the chenille up off the floor. This one-handed stuff is tough. Now let me get a hold of it here. I'll pull it right up. You're going to pull it right. Okay, you got it good. Good. Forward just some more. There we go. All right. Now, I don't want a messed up eye, so I'm going to trim that out of there right now. Okay, good. And I'm working my way back to the back there. And we'll just start wrapping that forward. And what I'm leading up to is team tying can be a fun competition. It can be a great way for people to tie flies. And think about Dick Nelson, a Busick Award recipient, doing a beautiful fly tying presentation with the help of a non-tying wife who all she did was hold things here, do stuff there, pinch there. That's what they did throughout the thing, just like Gretchen was doing for me. Someone can be your extra hand. And if you'll just kind of hold that up there. No, wait a minute. I'll hold that. You can flip that out, flip that over. Do it a couple more times. Now, if you'll hold that back all dog-legged so that we can keep that head nice. All right, good. Now pull that up and I'll cut that out. All right, now it's time to wrap the hackle. And we'll do the same thing. Now let's make sure that we get a nice even turns of hackle. You can grab that guy right there. You go. Need to get that back there. Okay, there. And now we'll palmer that hackle forward, trying to keep the turns evenly spaced. And looks like we're going to make it. By the way, folks, I did cheat a little bit tonight. When I picked out a feather, I did not pick out a short one. Here, let's get another turn right there at the front. Now you take and loop that over. Okay, grab the hackle and I'll do a dog leg. Pull it back for a dog leg. Okay, good. Feather up. All right. Now if you'll grab the pull, okay, good. You're going to pull that back so I can make a nice clean head. There we go. Hold that back. Let me get ready for a whip finish. You need a little bit more. Okay. Pull it up. Trim it off. And that's the end of a woolly bugger tied, team tied. And any
Awesome.
questions?
That's
And
a
you
great
didn't draw
fly.
any blood.
That's a great fly, Al. You gave me an idea. What a great way for two veterans to tie flies together.
That was worth the price of the admission.
Yes, absolutely.
Man,
Thanks.
that was cool.
Well,
Yeah,
the point I'm trying to make is a really good tire like Dick Nelson was, a Busick recipient, could take his non-tying wife. Of course, they get along pretty good together because somebody has to provide directions. And usually in married life, the husband says, yes, dear, how high should I? And, but all of a sudden, the right hand has to tell the non-educated left hand what to do. So that could be a problem. But anyhow, neither here nor there. If there are no questions.
To hold hands, you can't put your hand in your pocket.
Yeah, but we decided to hold hands.
So
I wished I would have had you on Wednesday night here in Kalispell for my fly tying class.
How's that?
Trying to teach beginners how to do the hand whip is interesting. And boy, they were just not getting it, but I'm going to show them your video here when it comes out.
Okay, well, it didn't show up real good because we had to use a faraway camera. The problem we had with a team tying event is not tying it so much, was figuring out how to place the cameras without having to just tear the whole studio apart, getting it, because if we were going to do nothing but team tying, we'd have to readjust all the cameras and do something different with them. But we managed to get through with what we've got here. And the tip, we got a surprise. Well, the surprise was that we did a team tie. We were going to do the team tie as part of that, but then this is expanded to the point that we did the demo, and now we're going to get to some information. And this is one of the things that I really wanted to talk about. I get lots of emails from people. This last week, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, Gretchen mentioned the fact that we use merino wool in some of our products, and it comes from Australia. And so I got an email from Paul, fellow Fidelis in Australia. He said, I had a light bulb moment and remembered the Nundle Woolen Mill in Nundle, New South Wales. And he gave us a link for their web address. I said, well, that's cool. Maybe I'll just share it with all the folks. And in fact, we will. And he says, went on to say they have all sorts of wool products. And in regards to prices, the US dollar is worth $1.50 in Australia. And go on from there. Well, it was the same day, later in the same day, that I get this fairly lengthy email from Dave Wilson. And Dave says, let's see where it is. I was a bit slow on reading when Paul called me into action. The merino wool that I use to make dubbing, etc., they call tops or rovings. And as it turns out, that's exactly what Gretchen buys out of Australia to make one of our dubbing products. And they formed the product before spinning, he says, I think. And I bought mine from Tasmanian Wool Center, and he left a link, during a Tassie fishing trip. I'll send you some other sites along with interest for the merino tops. And he had several sites here of which he mentioned to us. And what I'm going to do is I'll put them all in the chat so you all can pull those up and take a look at them. And the merino wool, there's 4 shades of gray that he had there from Australia. I thought was very interesting. But anyway, you all look at those. But while on the topic of sheep, he writes, I found sheep hair to be an excellent alternative to bleached elk hair. And I stopped dead in my tracks. I said, sheep hair, who in the hell's kidding who here? I just don't know about that. That seems kind of, well, sheep hair, sheep have wools. I mean, I've sheared sheep. I know what the heck this stuff looks like. Turns out that he goes on to say that it's a hair rather than wool, and the opposite of merino it's used to make carpets. The sheep breed is Tukidale from New Zealand originally. It doesn't flare as much as elk, and it floats due to the lanolin. And he leaves a web address. Our club previously used the shearers' quarters on a Tukidale location where we discovered it. Alan Barber, the previous owner of Tywell, asked the stud owner to later shear the odd sheep which Tywell used to dye and sell as foot-long mega hair. Little did I know. See, way back in the day, we were distributors in the U.S. for Alan Barber's Tywell products out of Australia. And about 10 years, we sold products to him in Australia, and we got products from him that we circulated around the U.S. Anyway, the long Jamaica hair, I never did do anything with it. And I have to tell you the truth, I just said, we got good stuff here. We don't need that. Little did I know that it was sheep hair. I just thought it was some kind of, quite frankly, I thought it was a craft hair of some kind. I didn't know. Anyway, and what I'd like you two to do, I'll start with you, Paul, because I got the first email from you, is if there's anything that you want to talk about on that Nundle store or whatever it's called, or maybe I pronounced it wrong, and then you can hand the reins to Dave and he can chat for a minute about some of the wool, and that I'm very interested in that Tukidale hair. Paul, it's all yours.
Well, I used to go carp fishing at Nundle, and at Nundle they have this woolen mill. It's an old ancient woolen mill, and I just remembered about it. And if you put me on screen share, that's the Nundle woolen mill. They got a catalog, their top rovings, all the different types. And the big thing is that they actually don't rip you off as far as the postage goes.
In Australia, I don't know if you have a caddis in the USA called a snowflake. We call it a snowflake here. And obviously the elk hair is a great imitation of the elk hair of the caddis that we have here, mainly in alpine areas where it's nice and cold. And I have found that the Tukidale sheep hair is better to use, and there's a sample of it there, better to use than elk hair because it doesn't flare as much. So there's the Tukidale hair, and like the Beattys, I mean, I also use the Merino tops, and I add that into my dubbing for making the dubbing on these caddises. And what I always do with my dubbing as well, I always add in a bit of flash, bit shiny there. There we are. Bit of epi flash, bit of sparkle. And I usually add into my dubbing as well some Antron, just to get a bit more sparkle as well there. But the Tukidale really is the central material I do use for the wing. So there's a fly that uses both the thickest hair probably known to man of a sheep and the thinnest hair known to man of a sheep.
Are these Australian sheep or New Zealand sheep?
It's actually the Tukidale, if you Google it, it comes across as an Australian experimental sheep. Now, by coincidence, our club, the Sydney Fly Rodders Club, of which there are a number of us, I think, online here at the moment, which is great to see. We actually had exclusive access to the shearers' quarters. We used to sleep 16 members there, and next door to us was, in fact, the shearer's shed. And in the shed were bales of Tukidale hair. And we didn't realize until, after about 8 years that this was the ant's pants as far as the substitute for elk hair goes, because obviously all elk is imported into Australia. Yeah,
Right.
particularly the dyed elk hair. Yeah.
Are you allowed to have elk imported into Australia? Are you allowed to get that?
Yes, there's no worries with elk hair at all, Al. We do
Wonderful.
have feral deer. Not sure what sort of deer it is, but there are feral deer that are at issue in our national parks, particularly in Tassie, and on the mainland as well.
Okay, well, now Gretchen is going to share with everyone one of the, well, this is the color chart, if you will,
These are the colors.
colors that she gets of that merino sheep wool for making the dubbing that we sell, and it hangs on those racks right back there.
This is for our soft touch is what we use this for. And this company is Outback Fibers from Australia. And their primary customer, I think, is people who do felting. If you're familiar with felting, it's kind of cool to go online and see what they do with felting.
Okay, and informational for all of you. I put all of the links from Paul and from Dave in the chat. And I also put a link to the YouTube video, the full-length video of Gretchen and I team tying. It's about 15 minutes long. And all I did is I chopped it down to about a minute to give you an idea what team tying was and then going from there. So if you want to watch it, you can get the link out of the chat. If you don't worry about it.
It's
But
a little
anyway,
easier than I thought. Team tying is pretty easy.
I think it's real easy if one person, whomever decides to be the person, you've got to have a lead person and a follow person.
And I listen to him and follow his direction.
Yep, she sure does. Yes.
Actually,
Yeah.
Al's my instructor, so I have to listen to it.
Anyway, and my thanks to my Australian friends that have joined us, and to Dave Wilson and Paul Fidelis, my very dear Australian friends, for helping us out this evening. And now we're going to move on to, and what we do is this is when you share with all of us. And we're going to start tonight.
This upcoming Tuesday is our next session for the fly tying group, or the fly tying techniques Zoom session. Eric Austin will be our instructor, and he's going to be talking about various types of dry flies that they use in the Catskills and such. And if you haven't had a chance to see Eric tie, you really need to come on, because he's a crackerjack. There's no doubt about it. He has a great style and he does a great job.
Hold
Yeah,
that
got
up
some
again,
nice
Bill.
bright colors.
Yeah. And I'm sure that women use that for felting. If anybody's not familiar with felting, they make hats and scarves and all kinds of things.
Okay.
And there
Anybody
are
else?
also a lot of people who dye merino and other types of wool for spinning. I'm a spinner. So
sure.
they're
Non-allergenic. It's supposed to be non-allergenic.
Okay, anybody else have something they want to share?
I was just going to add to the hand lotion list. This is what I use for that. Just a different brand, different product. So that works very well for me.
Thanks a lot, Joel. Appreciate it. That's it for tonight, folks. Thanks so much for now. It's a wrap until next time. We'll see you next week.